Hi, I'm Jan Doyle. Welcome to Classroom Connections. Tonight is a very, very special show. I have on two guests that I've known for a long time through my church, and they're here to talk about the Congregational Church sponsored activity, Take a Vet Fishing. I'd like to introduce to you Jeff Buggee. Did I say that correctly?
You did. Very well.
I've practiced for many, many times. And Ray Luhn.
One syllable.
Hey, I wasn't a teacher for nothing. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
And I understand that Take a Vet Fishing has started off as a little tiny seed and has grown. Can you tell me about how this program got started, Take a Vet Fishing?
Sure. Back in 2007, in the church, we have a program, Speaking of Lent, Speaking of Faith. And it's every Wednesday night, and members of the congregation talk about their job and how their faith interacts with their job. And we've had various defense lawyers, and this one Wednesday, we had a member who worked at the VA, and she was a psychiatric nurse and specialized with post-traumatic stress, returning veterans. And she just told some horrific stories about some of her veterans. And it moved me, and I thought there's got to be something more we can do. But, again, being a good adult that I am, I thought maybe we could volunteer the children to do something.
Works for me.
Cards, boxes.
Yeah.
As I started to work on it, and she told me, she said, Jeff, that's not my area. I'll put you in touch with the director of volunteer services. The VA, the bureaucracy, if you look up bureaucracy in a dictionary, I'm sure there's a picture of the VA. It took over 30 phone calls to get through to somebody who was willing to talk and listen to some of our ideas. And
I'm surprised you kept going because that's a lot of phone calls.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you didn't give up.
I'm fairly tenacious. And in the meantime, I was looking at various veterans' websites because I'm not a veteran. My father was in World War II, which is probably where that comes from. But I found soldiersandsailors.angels.org, and it talked about taking a vet fishing. It just talked about one day a year, Memorial Day weekend, taking a veteran out of the wherever and taking him fishing in a boat, a pond. And I said, boy, we've got this beautiful property down at Killam's Point. I wonder if we could do that.
Could you describe the property a little bit, Ray, for people who don't know what this property is like?
Well, it's on Long Island Sound, and it's a peninsula of about 40 or 50 acres, undeveloped, except for a couple of houses where the caretaker lives, and it's sort of a gathering place. Folks can stay overnight, too. Largely wooded, but some open areas too. And what works well for us is that there's a flat area with a seawall that's right up to the edge of the water. It's a rocky coastline, and it just lends itself very nicely to get our guests close to the water, and also for those that have disabilities or handicaps, it's easy access.
So this property that is owned by our church, the First Congregational Church, is gorgeous, pristine.
Thank you for adding that. That's the key part.
Pristine. And you thought that would be a great place to take the vets fishing.
Yes. VA required to come down, inspect the property, and he came down and he just fell in love with the place.
Well, who wouldn't?
Exactly.
Who wouldn't? I would love to live there. Yeah.
And the vets come down today. Some of them don't even want to fish. They just enjoy being down there. Just a piece of it.
Yes.
So
and you know what? That's a nice option. So take a vet fishing. You can fish or not.
It's a lot more than fishing.
Yes.
It's an awful lot more. He came down and fell in love with the place, said, can you do the first trip in about 2 weeks? And we said, probably. He said, 12 vets? We said, certainly. And he said, okay, in 2 weeks now, I'm still thinking the post-traumatic Afghan and Iraqi vets, young gentlemen. He said, we'll be bringing down 12 Korean War and World War II blind veterans. And that was our first experience bringing vets fishing.
Wow.
And we still work with the Blind Center today. They rotate through there all the time, and it's a wonderful, amazing relationship. But now, in addition to the Blind Center, which is in West Haven, we deal with the other two hospitals, which are in Rocky Hill and Newington. We also deal with homeless shelters, transitional housing. We deal with we've had, to date, over 2,000 veterans come through the program.
That's phenomenal. And I'd like to bring up a point that we had discussed a little bit earlier, Ray, where you said there's a human cost to the war. And can you go into that a little bit and how the Take a Vet Fishing helps take care of, or not take care of, but helps support the human cost?
Yeah. It's interesting. When we first got started, some people kind of pushed back and said, well, we're not in support of the military or of war and all that. And it really missed the point, because we're dealing with human beings. And any soldier will tell you that there's nothing that they hate more than war. Ultimately, not every soldier ends up in harm's way or is traumatized, but the ones that do struggle with it. It has a lasting effect, and everybody responds differently.
And it affects their primary relationship with the spouse, their children, and then their extended family, and their life and themselves. It has long-lasting effects.
Yeah, absolutely. The effects vary. They can be physical disabilities, could be injuries, and of course, psychological component.
Yes.
As well. So the groups that Jeff mentioned at the VA really cover quite a spectrum. But ultimately, when you get out to Killam's Point, and this is just one example, because not only are we at Killam's Point, but we're also at inland freshwater locations. But they have equal character in terms of being a peaceful environment and just a place where folks can unwind. And I think that's really the secret, if there was one, of providing an atmosphere where the stresses of life, of interaction with difficult situations, kind of just melts away. So in terms of the costs of war, just to get back to our point, it's, we've been at war now for how long? 12 years, and a lot of people have cycled through there, many deployments and such. We're still seeing mostly veterans from some from Korea, but Vietnam primarily. We're just starting to see the more recent vets coming through. So
now, why is that? How come just now more recent, when you originally thought the program was going to be for them?
A lot of the current vets, when they come back, if they're severely injured, they end up at Walter Reed or some of the bigger hospitals where they get the treatment for their severe injuries. And then as they need ancillary services in their local VA, that's when they come through our VA, and that's usually when we get to see them.
I see.
So most of the folks we see are outpatient type folks. So they may have gone to or are currently attending a program, and that could be either recovery for PTSD related issues, substance, alcohol abuse, also mental health. The psych ward at the VA, we're the only group that they actually let their patients come and visit with supervision, but you wouldn't be able to pick them out of a crowd. But it just has such a good effect on them. We've heard back that, their behavior changes noticeably for, a week later. That is
interesting.
Affected that much.
And that is good to hear. What I think I might do, because I want to make sure we have time for it, is I think this might be a good time to cycle through some of the pictures, because we can discuss it and then go back to my notes, because I think that would help the audience see. So when the director gets a chance, I'd appreciate if you put the picture number 1. It's on the monitor. Now, one of you explain this picture for me.
So these are the blind vets that Jeff was referring to, and it conveys a pretty relaxed atmosphere, and that's exactly what it is. It's a chance to sit down and have a conversation with the person next to you and find out who they are, where they're from, and the blind vets usually come for anywhere from Virginia to Maine, anywhere on the eastern seaboard. The ages vary. The reason for their vision loss or impairment varies. But the whole point is just to form a friendship and share the day, share the company.
Now, the other picture we were on, that was Killam's Point.
Yeah.
Now, this picture, how do you get a boat?
Interesting. This is the second year we've been tied up with the Brantford Yacht Club. And Brantford Yacht Club arranged us this year for 35 boats. And they took the vets out at their expense, their fuels.
35 boats?
92 veterans.
Wow.
We could call them vessels.
Yeah, they were more than boats, yeah.
Wow. They they had people volunteer their boats.
Their boats, their time,
fuel,
their gas, their
their
equipment, their bait, and it was a captain and a mate usually, and then as many passengers as would safely fit.
Safely is a key word.
Yes.
I'm noticing I wasn't on one of those boats.
No, you weren't.
Wow.
We've invited you a number of times.
That
though.
is true. That is true. Right? That is true. But look at how much fun that is. First of all, just to get on a boat is exciting. Now, were the blind vets on those boats?
Yes, they were, yeah.
We had a few.
Because I
not on this
know-
particular boat here, and this actually is not a boat in the yacht club, but it suits the purpose.
But then, because my sister is blind and she won't get on something that has that unevenness.
It's
and,
not for everybody.
Yeah. But there's a lot of non-blind,
Right.
Yes.
vision. Yes. That's very interesting. So perhaps if we could go to slide number 3, please. I would appreciate it. Again, we're back at Killam's Point, and how relaxing
Well, this brings up a great story. The fellow sitting here is someone who has been struggling with PTSD, and now he's been coming for a number of years, and I was just giving him a ride recently with another fellow who was coming for the first time, and the story went like this. This gentleman started telling the fellow in the back seat about the first time that he came out to Killam's Point. And he was living in a transitional home, and the house manager there had told him, listen, you need to go take a vet fishing. You need to go out there. And he goes, I don't really want to. He
Doesn't
says,
like
no.
to fish.
So he pretty much ordered him to go. And he said, and boy, I was a miserable son of a, you know what. And then he pointed to me and he says, just ask him. So I'll tell you.
Was that true?
He's
He's a little surly.
I walked him out to where he was sitting there with his rod and made sure his hook was baited and offered him something to drink. And then I sat down next to him to have a conversation. And he just turned to me and just said, I'd rather be by myself, which was fine. I was cool with that. And
Well, you know what? That takes a lot of courage to say that to somebody.
it does. But you know what? He came back a few weeks later, and then he came back the time after that, and after that. And then next spring, the first time that he came, I happened to see him coming down the path. And it was amazing because, when somebody's coming to a place that they're familiar with, they're already looking out there, checking out their spot, and they're seeing who's already there and that kind of thing. He had a bounce in his step, and when he came close enough, he was just grinning from ear to ear. And he was a different person. Now, I don't know that we can take credit for that, but
some credit.
I'll tell
Some
you that,
started it, yes.
at that moment, I told him what I remembered from his first visit, and he said he started getting into what it meant to him and what his experience was like, and so it does make a difference. And to hear him tell somebody that was coming for the first time, what it meant to him, I think was incredible.
It's like paying it forward and helping the other person get. Oh, that's very, very
Good way to
interesting.
put it. And we're starting to. We're at this now. We just finished our 7th season, which we would have never guessed. And I have to tell you, the fact that Jeff and I are sitting here talking, we're just the guys talking. There is a large group of volunteers that have worked diligently and were very dedicated to show up and do what's got to be done. Yeah.
Yeah, we can. We'll talk more about that if we have time.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, do many people tell you that they don't want to talk to you and ask you to leave? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Okay. If we could see, it was just.
We'll talk later.
Okay. If we could see the next slide now. Look at this. This is a great image. This is a happy camper.
Yeah.
What kind of
There's
fish is that?
two happy campers there because Jeff always likes to say we have more fun than the vets doing this, and that's one of our good friends, Joe Arnson, who came the first time when he heard about it, and he never stopped coming.
Now, what kind of fish is that? Do you know?
That's a bluefish.
That's a bluefish?
That's a big one, Jan.
So we do catch fish even.
You do catch. And what do you do with the fish that you catch? Do you eat them or toss them back?
The vets don't let us throw them back. If it was up to us, we'd let them go, but they want to keep them and take them home. They're very
Or sometimes
proud.
we'll barbecue them there for lunch for them.
Because that's a great idea.
Nothing like fresh striped bass on the grill.
Yes, yes. If on the next slide that we're going to be seeing coming up, this I found was very interesting. Who provides the handicap transportation service?
Actually, we're blessed. We have disabled American vets, and we managed to
The DAV, the
DAV
organization. Yeah.
and they provide transportation all over the state. We get vets coming now from Hartford, from Bridgeport, West Haven, obviously, but it's just incredible. And we can't thank them enough. They've been able, because of our program, they were actually looking previously, there wasn't enough use for their vans, if you can imagine, and they were going to get rid of it. Now they've been able to purchase 2 new vans for their program because of the activity that we provide them with.
Wow, that really says something about that something's not right if they're not using the vans. That's about it in all areas, but that's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's complicated because it involves volunteers and so on. But we haven't mentioned too many names in it because it's difficult to, you don't want to single anybody out. But I will take this opportunity to mention a gentleman named Al Meadows, who has really been the driver behind the transportation side of this. Without transportation, 80% of the vets would never make it to our events, which are actually throughout the state. And Al, through his leadership, has been able to set up a transportation network of vehicles and volunteer drivers, even 2 car dealerships that are now each donating a van with a driver who's their employee who also happens to be a vet. And they sometimes make 2 or 3 trips back and forth just to get everybody there, so we don't leave anybody behind. It's really tremendous, and without that, I mean, that is like the 3rd leg of the stool, if there was.
Yes, yes. And when I think the taking of that fishing, it's more than just fishing. You fish or not fish, but it's the companionship, the camaraderie, the new friends they're making with each other.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then with the volunteers.
Well, we came up with a mission statement, and we decided to make it really simple. So our mission is simple. It's the idea is to get veterans and their staff out of the clinical environment for a relaxing day of fishing. It's a complete event. Everything's provided, but once you get people together, the rest kind of takes care of itself.
Well, who takes care of the food? Who brings? Because I know you feed them. How do you get the food?
Well, first of all, it's a complete day. When the vets arrive, they walk down the walkway at Killam's Point, and there's flags line the walkway. They're provided with coffee and a light breakfast, usually bagel or donuts. We provide them with the fishing rod, the bait, a mentor if they need it. Then lunch we do.
Who puts the worm on the hook?
Some of them do, but
that's the part I don't like.
The big smiley. That's
we all do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's part of the package.
It's a complete day for them, and barbecue lunch, and we have a complete hospitality staff that steps up and does an unbelievable job.
So it's home cooking. So that's part of the draw.
Yeah.
Jan, I don't know if somebody asked you to come up with doing an event which would give somebody the best experience of their life. You'd probably be hard pressed to imagine what that would be in the first place, and then to pull it off. But that's the kind of response we frequently get. Like, you've given me some of the best memories of my life. That was the best Thanksgiving feast I've ever had. I don't get along with any of my family, but I feel at home here.
Well, wow, that's huge.
It is,
wow, that's very humbling, and to think what you're doing for other people.
And I guarantee you, we're both sitting here with goosebumps right now. And frequently, when we talk with other folks that have been involved in this and have this conversation, which we do, we're all standing there with goosebumps. It's amazing. It's hard to explain, but it's beautiful.
And Jan,
I'm feeling that.
Ray mentioned the Thanksgiving. It's become a year-round program now. What we started out just taking vets fishing in the summer. First year we did 3 trips. Last year we did 18 events. Actually, more than 18 events. We take them. Yale donates football tickets, and we arrange to take them to football games. We've taken them to baseball games. We've taken them to museums. We do a Thanksgiving luncheon for them every year. It's just, in the winter, we actually take them ice fishing.
They want to go do that?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking it's very cold out there. I was a little chilly coming in here today. They want to go ice fishing. Where do you go ice
Deer
fishing?
Lake.
Deer Lake. Is that in Guilford?
No, it's in Killingworth. It's a scout camp. And we've got a great relationship. And there's a wonderful log cabin there where I usually stay and watch the hot chocolate. And
Let me know I'd love to go and take some pictures.
Yeah.
I would love to go and take. I know you have tons of pictures. Speaking of pictures, I love photography. I love photography. Go on to the next picture if you get a chance. Now this one is a gorgeous shot. Tell me about this.
So you're looking at the Field of Flags. This was on display last year in the weeks leading up to Veterans Day. And because of the work that our group has been doing, we were honored with having this display in those weeks up to Veterans Day, which of course everybody wanted. But we heard, Jeff, you heard about this a few years back, right?
Yes, back in 2009, I actually looked into it, and they said there was a 2-year waiting list. And I put our name on the waiting list, and lo and behold, got a call. And well, the first thing in 2009, I said, well, can we get, she said, don't even ask. She said, you want Memorial Day and Veterans Day? And I said, well, yeah. And she said, no, everybody wants those. She said, you're not going to get those. And when it came time, she said, are you still interested in doing the Field of Flags? We said, absolutely. And she said, well, we'd like you to host it for Veterans Day. She said, we couldn't think of a more appropriate organization that's done more for the vets than you have at the Congregational Church.
Wow.
So yeah.
You know, the sad part is that that Field of Flags amounts to, at the time it was 6,559 flags. And they'd been doing that for 5 or 6 years, and when they started it was in the 2000s. But yeah, all those flags had to be placed on the green one after another. And
each flag represents what?
One lost soldier in Afghanistan or Iraq. So it was very poignant. Amazingly, volunteers came out of the woodwork to set this up, and we met some amazing people. In the calendar that we've put together for 2014, I just want to highlight
tell me about the calendar, before you go into the calendar.
Photo here.
Okay, go ahead.
Just to finish our story. This
just
couple,
gonna hold it up
this is
here.
another couple I want to highlight. So they just showed up,
There we go.
and their son was on his 3rd deployment in Iraq, and they felt they wanted to help with this. And as I spoke with them, she mentioned that they also knew 34 names of the fallen here through their son. And it just, you know, we started out talking about the cost of war. Well, you know, here's a good example. And this was just another way that we never anticipated that we would be able to touch people in our community. But, you know, what an honor to be part of something like this. It's just amazing.
It is. You know, I'm really grateful that we're doing this story, because even though we're all in the same church, I didn't have such an in-depth understanding of this. And I have to say, I really like this image because it just tells a complete story in this particular picture. But tell me about the whole calendar. What is the purpose of this whole calendar, Jeff?
This is the 2nd year we did it, and we did it actually last year as a Christmas gift for all the vets who've attended our program. And they just loved it. It just went over so big that we decided to do it again. And this year we put a lot more effort into it. And the hard part is actually coming up with the pictures, because we have so many now. You know, so many images.
Well, I would say the hard part is to weed them down.
Yes.
And who's not included, but you do a good job of who does determine the pictures?
All of us. And Ray and I do a lot of the work, and we talk to all the volunteers, and a lot of people involved in taking the pictures and participating, as you can see. So it's really a group effort.
Oh, I'm looking at this.
You're having all the fun, Dan.
It's like, I have to share this with the audience. Then how do I do this? I forgot we were on TV.
One of the one you're holding up there is we do fly tying over the winter months, and I believe we actually
we have a slide on that. There it is on that right now.
There's an example. This fellow here he was a combat medic in Iraq. He told me he was in 13 different explosions, IEDs and stuff. Just amazing that he even survived that. But he ended up with some kind of nerve damage that affected his vision to where he was lights out blind. But he loved it. He had such a good time.
So let me just get this straight. You have a blind veteran learning how to tie.
Right. It becomes very tactile. I mean, it's really,
wow.
It's a little different exercise.
And this is where they're all working. This is our parish hall.
So this is set up. And then the staff at the Blind Center was really helpful in guiding us with making sure we had good lighting, you know, for good contrast and
very supportive.
Yep, and exactly what would work best. And then it's, as you can see, it's one-on-one tutoring. So it's really about getting to know somebody, and you know, by the time you've spent a half a day with someone, you've made a new friend. And we've all made some wonderful friends along the way.
Now, there's one, this is the last picture up there. Now, this says it all. Look at that face. And it's a little fish. It's not like the other fish we saw that was huge. What kind of fish is that? Do we know or
That's
not?
a pickerel, a chain pickerel.
A what?
Pickerel.
A pickerel? Is that are you making that up?
No, that's a real fish.
Pickle fish.
A pickle fish. That's cute. That's cute. We only have a couple of minutes left, unfortunately. And I wanted to ask you, we just touched the subject, and you mentioned earlier there's tons of volunteers that get involved in this. If someone is seeing this program and they're not a member of the First Congregational Church, and you don't have to be, how do they get involved? Where could they go for information?
I would direct anybody to, we have a Facebook page set up, so just type in TAVF Fishing.
The graphic is
search.
on there now, so TAVF Fishing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we have a website as part of the church website, but the short URL is tavf.org/vets.html.
You know, if you don't remember all of that, because that's a lot to remember, you can always call the First Congregational
Absolutely.
Church office, and the Carol or Maria will direct you to you, and you can always email me at jmdteach@comcast.net or classroomconnections365.com, and I can put you in contact, because I know
We're
that
always looking for volunteers.
yeah, you're always looking for volunteers. And I also like to say donations. If you're always looking for donations, if people can support in a small way, if they can give their time, because this sounds like an absolutely phenomenal opportunity for people who deserve
we
it.
have to really express our thanks and gratitude to all the folks that have supported this, because it doesn't happen without financial support. And in the beginning, it was really a matter of scraping every dollar, but now we've got some momentum, and a number of organizations, civic organizations in town, are very supportive, and I hope the results speak for themselves. I would open an invitation to anybody that's listening. On January 5th, Sunday, 10 o'clock service at the Congregational Church, we will be honoring all the volunteers. And for anybody that's interested in learning more about it, we will have a more extensive slideshow than the few pictures that we had.
See, the only thing with that specific date is we might not be on the air at that time.
That's okay.
But so I would like to say in general, you're opening up the invitation to contact you to find out the events and come to any of them.
Yes.
And you don't have to be a fisherman. As you can see, and we've mentioned a number of times, it's really about the one-on-one, the rapport, the fellowship.
Yes. I don't want to cut you off, Ray, but I am. Okay. So our time is up. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah.
And
pleasure.
well, it's been a pleasure for me. Thank you so much, gentlemen. This is a wonderful